In this bonus episode, I'm chatting about my experience at the MXPX show on February 9th at Webster Hall in New York City.
Welcome to the Eat, Sleep, Breathe Music podcast, where we talk all things music. I'm your host, Jeanette Kimsel, blogger and music enthusiast. Let's get started with today's episode.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Eat, Sleep, Breathe Music podcast. I'm your host, Jeanette Kimsel. For those of you just joining us, this is the podcast where I talk about different musicians and how their music affects me, and then I play a track of theirs for you to listen to. So you can check it out, form your own opinion as well, and if you're so inclined to share your opinion, I'll have details where you can leave your comments at the end of the show. However, today I'm doing something a little different. I'm back with another bonus episode. Early in February, I had the pleasure of seeing MXPX at Webster Hall in New York City, and this was the first show off of their 6-show tour with the Ataris, and I wanted to give a recap of the concert experience. When this show was originally announced, I was so elated because I had not seen MXPX since before the pandemic, back in when they played Irving Plaza in 2019, and we actually almost didn't even get to see them because the band was on their way back to New York City from a festival in Canada, and their plane got derailed because a bird flew into the plane and they had to land. They had to do an emergency landing. So they were trying to figure out what to do if they wouldn't have time to drive there to get there in time. So they decided to charter a private plane. So they were able to get there better late than never. So I've been just like following them to see when they're going to be playing again because they are a West Coast band and they don't tend to come to the East Coast very often. Also with the pandemic, it's kind of hard to gauge because I think there was 2 or 3 years of no concerts at all. And it seems like a really long time, but maybe it's not really that long because it was just the pandemic. So maybe in my mind, it seems longer than it really was. I saw them originally back in 2001 at Irving Plaza as well, and they were playing with Good Charlotte. Good Charlotte was opening for them. So this is going back so long ago, but I remember going to that show and I remember being a fan of them, and I think I was probably maybe like 17, 18 at the time. And then before the show, we actually saw Good Charlotte on the street in New York City, but we were so embarrassed. Like we didn't know what to say to them. So we just didn't say, we didn't go up. We like walked past them. Good Charlotte, but that was pretty fun. And so I feel like, I always liked MXPX and I was really into the Let It Happen CD and I don't know what happened over the years. I feel like I just kind of lost touch of their music. But then with the internet and I feel like the pandemic, and I saw that they had a new album that had come out. And so I started following them then I found this Facebook group online that was also just all the fans talking about their shows and different things. And it really makes me feel like not that big of a fan because I feel like it's so hard sometimes to be a huge fan of a band because there's so many bands that I like to listen to. So and it's funny because you don't realize how much of a fan you are until you see a live concert, and then you get really like swept up into the fandom again and you're really excited and, just I don't know, that this always happens to me. There's a band and I listen to them for a really long period of time, and then I get distracted with other music and then I listen to that, and then I'll see a concert and then it gets me like amped up again and I'm all right, I'm ready to listen to this again. But I do feel I'm not as big of a fan as some people that I've seen in these Facebook group, and it's so awesome just to see the fandom and the dedication and how much this music means to so many people, and everyone in the group is so nice and supportive, and it's just really awesome to see all the merch and memorabilia and the tattoos people have, and they even have their kids dressing up in band merch and taking them to shows. It's really a nice like family atmosphere. It makes sense because people have been listening to this band for over 30 years. They had formed back in 1992, and so it's been quite a while. So it definitely makes sense if you were a teenager listening to MXPX and then now you have children and you have your kids into them and family affair. So I feel like I don't really deserve recognition as like a super fan. I would say I'm a fan, but I'm not a super fan. I do like their music and I follow them and I listen to their new music, and I like to see when they're playing locally, and if they're playing locally, I try to go and support them. So when I saw that they were playing New York and Philly, I was really excited because it seemed like it had been a really long time since the band had played. Like I said before, it was 2019, the last show that we saw them. And, New York and Philly for us are the same distance. And I think the Philly show was a day that we weren't able to make it. So we wound up getting tickets for the New York show. And it was so great because the tickets for the New York show, and actually pretty much, I think all the shows were pretty reasonably priced. And I was able to get tickets on the first try, which was super exciting because it's so hard to do that these days. I was just at home in a good time and I was able to get regular tickets and not reseller tickets. I did feel bad though, because after a certain period, the tickets did sell out and then they went to reseller. And I think people were posting them for like hundreds of dollars because I saw someone in the Facebook group had mentioned the show. The day of the show, the tickets were like $130. It's a shame because a lot of people like music, they want to see artists, and then it's just out of their price range. And it'd be different if the money was going to the band, but I really don't think that's happening. All the money is going into the owner of the reselling companies, which typically I think is Ticketmaster because they have a monopoly on the market and they own everything. So it's probably going into Ticketmaster's pocket, which totally sucks. And the other reason why I jumped at the chance to get tickets was because, MXPX doesn't tend to play the East Coast very often. Touring seems to be very difficult for pretty much all bands these days. And if it's not lucrative for them, they're not going to tour in certain areas. It's the fans miss out, but at the same time, you have to understand the band they need to make money and they need to have make a living like everyone else. And wherever their money is probably where they're going to go. And if the trek to the East Coast seems like a lot and it's just not feasible for them, then they might not do it very often. So it was really exciting that the fact that they were coming to New York. The day of the show, I was so pumped. We were planning on taking the train because the last couple times we've driven into the city on a Friday have been a nightmare. And if you leave too late, you're going to be stuck in traffic. And no matter what, I feel like everyone's always going to New York City on Friday. And then you have to deal with parking and it's in the West Village and the parking down there, it's not that great. There's not as many lots. So we just opted to take the train to save ourselves a lot of hassle. You get on and you don't have to worry about, the worst thing with the train is just waiting. But if you do go up a little bit north, you find a station that is a hub and the trains are running all the time, then it's not that bad. And I try to be on time, but I don't know what happens. Lately, I feel like I'm always late. And despite my best efforts to leave on time, we were leaving late. And it's also, I think, a difficult thing when you have a show on a Friday night, unless you either take a half day of work or you take off the whole day. Getting into the city is a process. And I remember when I used to work in New York, it was so easy. We would just jump on the train and head to the venue right after work. And now it's all about planning the trip and planning the best way to get there so we get there in time. The doors opened about around 6 and the show started at 7, which seemed kind of early, but then after thinking about it for a while, this is usually typically the time when concerts start. So I don't know, but I think because we live so far from the city, again, we have to make this big plan. And we realized that driving to a more central location with the express trains would put us in a better place time-wise. So we hopped in the car, we made it to the train station with actually time to spare. And then we were waiting on the platform. My husband noticed another couple who was wearing the When We Were Young festival hoodie and it had MXPX on there. And he's like, I bet they're going to the concert too. And I was feeling friendly. So I made my way over to them. And then I asked if they were going to the MXPX show. And I was super excited to see a fellow fan. And I don't know, my inquisitiveness took over. And then, because normally I'm pretty shy. So I started asking them if they were going to the show and they said yes. And I had asked them if they went to the MXPX show back in 2019, because it was a memorable show because there was that whole story of them coming to the show late, having all these plane issues. And then they said no, but they did see them at the When We Were Young festival. I also was asking about the When We Were Young festival and how it worked, because looking at the festival lineup, it seemed like there's no way to see that many acts in one day. They were saying that it was actually one of those things where you couldn't go back and forth between stages, but you do have to kind of pick the bands that you want to see. I also inquired if they knew about if there was any opening band. I wasn't sure if there was going to be an opening act because there was nothing on the bill, there was nothing on Ticketmaster. So I figured there probably wasn't, but it did seem kind of odd to me that it was just starting with the Ataris. Talking to the couple after a while, I got a little nervous and I was trying to search for things to talk about. I probably should have just kept my mouth shut, just been like, okay, well, our conversation is over. But then I don't know, this nervous energy in me makes me want to talk more and keep talking. So then I asked them about how they were getting to the venue in the city, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but I think I may have blacked out from embarrassment, so I don't remember exactly what I was saying, but I do recall saying something about how I feel it's always quicker to get to the venue going through Newark and taking the PATH train. It's just an alternate route into the city from New Jersey, and for some reason, and I said, I don't know, I think I said I hate having to go downtown, or I hate having to go uptown to go downtown. And I recall saying something like it was a quicker way to get into the venue through Newark. And then I just feel like I got like a weird look from them. And then luckily I was saved by the train. And then they went upstairs and we went downstairs on the train. And then I was like, I don't know, I just felt like a moron. And then I'm sitting there thinking, is it quicker to take Newark? I don't know. So we spent the next like 20 minutes on the phone figuring out, looking at like the distance and how long it would take to get to the venue through going into New York Penn Station versus Newark Penn Station. And then I don't know. I said I always hate going uptown to go downtown. So then I'm like, you know what? Let's go to Newark because I like going on the PATH train. I don't know. For some reason, I just have this thing in my head. And I think it's because I used to work in the city and I used to commute through the PATH. And I always liked taking the PATH because it seemed less crowded. And I don't know. So we decided to go by the PATH and we actually arrived 10 minutes earlier than we were supposed to at the venue, according to Google. I always like getting to the venue a little later than when the doors open, just because you don't have to wait in line. And we got really lucky with the weather on Friday. It was really beautiful and the night was really mild. The last time we went to the city, we went to go see the Dresden Dolls in concert. And that was the night when everybody was going out for Halloween. I think it was actually like a really hot day. And then the night was really mild. So the same thing happened with us with this concert. So we were really lucky because I remember one other time we went to see Spriribox at Irving Plaza and it was raining and it was just like, it was just miserable outside. So we were pretty lucky with the weather. And we got to Webster Hall about 15 minutes before the show started. So we didn't have to wait in line and we just kind of got to the bar area. And then we went to the main ballroom and that was kind of empty, which I was surprised about. But then again, I guess if you think about it, a lot of times people really don't show up at the show until the main headliner comes on. So it was kind of probably typical. It was nice because we were able to spot out where we wanted to stand. And there was no opening act. The Ataris actually opened the show promptly at 7 p.m. And I felt like the lights were really distracting. They were red, and I don't know if it was supposed to be mood lighting, but it made it kind of hard to see the band. It just was distracting for a while. But then after a while, you got into the music and it wasn't as distracting as it was in the beginning. So the Ataris opened with their radio hit In This Diary. They played about 40 minutes and it was exciting and enthralling, and their music is just so emotional, has so much love. And the set felt like we were on that storyteller show that used to be on, I think, VH1. The band was giving all the interpretations of what the music was about, and they were discussing the history of the song and the meaning behind the songs. And it was just a great balance of music and talking, and it was just thoroughly entertaining. Though most people were there to see MXPX, they did give the Ataris respect and rocked out with the songs, and could see people in the crowd who were there for the Ataris as well. And there was this guy next to me who was like dancing and having a blast, and it was so fun, and it kind of pumped me up. And it was like, yeah, because especially like it's so nostalgic, you haven't heard these songs, or you haven't really seen the band in a while, and it was just fun. And as I said, they played about a 40-minute set, give or take a couple minutes, and it was comprised of 8 tracks, the bulk of them from their 2003 album So Long Astoria. These included Letter to the World, If I Die Tomorrow, Will the Story Live On Forever, Here Is Mine, Wide Open Letter to a World That Never Should Reply. The hero dies in this one. Never be the same without you. I love you more than you will ever know. Now you finally know. Times were helpless and alone. You can't let it keep you hanging down. We must go on. Takeoffs and landings. Still a place that I would rather be. Please don't let me go falling from the sky. Don Henley cover of Boys of Summer.
Jump by your house, don't know who's going home. I can see you, not you should yourself. See whoever you're stolen, smiling at everyone. I can tell you, I love you, will still be strong. Until the poison sun.
And they also play the track San Dimas High School Football Rules and Your Boyfriend Sucks, which are from their 1999 release Blue Skies, Broken Hearts, Next 12 Exits. I remember the 2003 album tracks. That was what was being played on the radio in the early 2000s. My sister also had that album, so I remember listening to it a lot. I hadn't heard the San Dimas Football Rules song before. MXPX had covered it, and then I had went back to the original. And that song is just, there's something about that song that's so powerful. Maybe it's like the goony teenage girl in me, but I always am so obsessed with these emo-y, lovelorn lyrics, which just takes you back in time. They finished with the title track, So Long Astoria. Throughout the set, they had this great interaction with the crowd, getting them to sing and then discussing the song's meaning or the inspiration of the song. It was really exciting and it gave me goosebumps and it put a smile on my face. And then when they played San Dimas High School Football Rules, lead singer Chris Rowe had mentioned how he was so excited that MXPX had covered the song. They had added his name to the line in the song where it goes, I drive you to Las Vegas and do the things you want to do. I even have Chris Rose dedicate a song to you. In the original song, it's Wayne Newton.
It's not an MXPX song, but I like to tell people it is. I woke up one day and somebody's like, hey, you know MX covered San Dimas? I'm like, get out of here. And then to top it off, Mike sang my name in my own song. I was literally on the couch and my ex-wife was like, just watching my grin. I'm like, oh my goodness.
So that was cute how he had mentioned that, and it was something that MXPX fans could be excited about as well. Being a little on the shorter side, I'm about only 5'4". It can be somewhat of a problem when you go to standing room only shows, but this was a standing room only show. And I don't mind standing, but it's always one of those things where when you get to the show, you try to pick a place to stand, but then you really can't count on that being the place where you're going to be able to see for the whole night, because it's like the crowd is like the ocean. When you go into the ocean and then eventually you just wind up in a different place. I feel like that happens with concert venues where you might be able to see in the beginning of the night, but then by the end of the night, you might not be able to see anymore. So I usually pick a place, but I don't really count on it being the same place for the whole show because, like I said, the crowd can change over time. And especially if there's a mosh pit, then you have to see where the mosh pit is going. And you just have to kind of go with the flow, swing with the punches, as they say. So when after the Ataris had left, there was this mass exodus of people going to the bathroom. So I found a little pocket of space and I moved up and I'm like, fingers crossed that it's a good place to stand for the rest of the show. This spot being a good place to stand could be short-lived. And for some reason it seemed like it took a really long time to do set changes and sound checks before MXPX came on, but they came on at 8:11. So I mean, that was probably like 40 minutes? I mean, that's typical. And I don't know, maybe it's just the impatience on my part and wanting the show to start. And so then they came on around 8:11 and they came out to the rocking high energy track Not Today, which is off their latest album, Find a Way Home.
Mistakes. Here we go! Not today. Today I'm easy. It's good you got me. When you want me.
And And then they followed that up with an hour and a half of pure, exciting rock out punk rock. They played a great mix of discography ranging from the 90s to their latest album. The only issues I had with the show were that some of the fans in the crowd kind of sucked. There were these aggressive people who just blow past you every once in a while with no respect for anyone in front of them. And I understand that you want to get to the front or you want to get to the pit, but don't be a jerk about it. It would take 2 seconds to be like, hey, excuse me. And then, I don't know. It's the biggest pet peeve of mine to have people push past and shove past. And I don't know if they're drunk or inconsiderate or just really excited and have no regard for anything else that's going on around them. I mean, I understand all of these things could be happening, but it's just frustrating sometimes. But aside from the occasional a-hole, the show was good and it didn't really ruin things. And I was able to concentrate on the performance once I just filtered out everything around me. And I really love the mix of songs they played. They did a few songs off their new album, including Ready to Rage. They also took it way back to the 90s with Chick Magnet.
Well, here's a chick magnet if you know what I mean. When girls just color him, well, you should have seen. Because, yeah, he's got style and it's plain to see. Smooth shoes and cool tattoos, her palm massages can't break.
My mom still cleans my room. Southbound.
There's only one place that I wanna be. 7 out of 5. Windows down and music on the stereo. Driving and I'm dreaming. There's no place I'd rather go. Staring at white lines on the side of the road.
And New York to Nowhere.
Going nowhere fast. Watching cars go past. The world's moving out faster. This trip is a disaster. 16-hour drive. Just waiting some time. We're going to nowhere. We're never gonna get there. A bit of clouds over me.
They closed with the emotional Let's Ride. And then they did a real encore. They actually left stage and came back and they played 3 songs. They started the encore with Friday Tonight, which was fitting because it was Friday night.
How is it every single time? I'm in the kitchen, you're in the kitchen, in the goddamn refrigerator. Avoid love that line, say it every time like tonight. Friday tonight, 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 here in the fire. Friday tonight, 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 Friday night.
And then they played My Life Story.
I was on my way, I'm sure that I wanna find you. But I got around town, and then I had to get you right. Murder time. Hey! Don't hate me forever. Why better late than never? I felt you.
And then they finished with Punk Rock Show.
Year after year, we love it. We love you. This is for you, always has been, always will be. Punk Rock Show! I wanna get into the guy, I wanna hear him play loud. Yeah.
It's so exciting when you see a band live and they evoke all these emotions and feelings, and you don't realize how much of a fan you are until you see them live. Every time I see MXPX, it puts me in such a good mood. I don't know, maybe it's the pure love of the music, or maybe it's the fact that they're just so happy, genuinely excited to be there, and it's just amazing to see their relentless touring ethic and their music and their fan base and the mix of generations and all the kids in the crowd. There was a little kid who was in the mosh pit on some parent's shoulder, and it was just a really fun time. And they were so excited to be in New York City, and they were talking about the last time they were there and how they almost missed the show and because of the plane issue. And then they were saying how they had gotten bagels and pizza, and there's so much good food and there's so many good memories. And it was so heartwarming to see how much love they had for the area, and you can tell how excited they are to be on stage and playing and how much of a love they have for their fans. It was just overall just such a love fest, and it was so fun. And they've been doing this for over 30 years and they're still going strong, and they play their hearts out. And I feel nothing's changed in the 23 years since I first saw them back in 2001. If you're looking for some new punk rock music, MXPX is a band that you should definitely check out. And if you went to this or another MXPX show, I'd love to know your thoughts and experiences. You can tell us in a comment on the podcast webpage. You can also leave an audio comment at the link in our Spotify page. For more information on MXPX, check out their official website, www.mxpx.com. You can also like and follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and X. On Facebook and Instagram, they are at the handle MXPXPX. On X, they are at the handle MXPX. If you're looking for more new music, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get the latest podcast episodes and other artist features. You can also find more music features on our website at www.eatsleepbreathemusic.com. That is EATSLEEPBREATHEMUSIC.com. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode. Thanks so much for watching the Eat, Sleep, Breathe Music podcast. To find new music and learn more about what we do, you can check out our website at www.eatsleepbreathemusic.com.